I love foxgloves, and they're at their best here in Wales in June. They have a beautiful magenta, purple, soft colour. But they're not all this colour. There are natural albino white ones too, like this. They enjoy hedgerows and rough land and look great when they stand together like an army, gently swaying in the wind. Strong yet supple. They first grow the tall stem, often curved over, and then start flowering from the bottom, the blooms gently climbing to the top. So foxgloves are a great subject to put into any country scene. Their tall, vivid spikes bring a landscape into life. And like the other subjects, look for a way to simplify them. How do you make a statement about a foxglove in a simple way that's easy to portray and yet gets the message through so that there's a strong emotional impact and radiation from the image when the person looks at it? So now I'm in the studio back again, and I thought I'd better do a little bit of preparation before I started trying to paint this bigger picture of the foxgloves. So this is the drawing I've done, and it's about as good as I need to be at drawing to do what I do. I've just planned it out on a piece of paper here, roughly some landscape where the foxgloves are going. There's going to be some water coming down here, and then what I did, cheating a bit I suppose, but I did a practice one because I haven't done foxgloves for ages. And this is sort of roughly the type of thing we'll be aiming for, but of course it'll never work out quite like that. So let's get started and see how, first of all, to produce the sky. So make sure your iron's clean, and then, first things first, start loading the iron with white for the sky. Now we did this on the previous picture. I'll have to do it a few more times this time. So when I get fed up, I'll just speed the video up and skip along. Pink, pale blue, darker blue, lots of white, and wipe it on. Reload, do the same thing. And this is a bit like a plasterer, and I'm plastering the colour to cover this top area. And the one problem we're going to encounter is that we'll end up with lots of blotchy lines in between all the different applications. Okay. I've got my initial coating on here now. Let's have a closer look at that. And you can see here the iron mark that we had last time still showed up again. Also I got hair in there, so I'm just going to pick that out with the scribing tool before we go any further. Using hot air tools is a good way to make the waxes flow together, and it doesn't leave hard lines like the edge of the iron would when you're using it. So this is a hairdryer and this is an electric paint stripper. And I'm going to give you a word of warning right at the very beginning. This tool gets very hot and it's not safe for any child to use, and you should only use it yourself if you're confident and if you're aware of the safety precautions. Work in a ventilated area. This part gets extremely hot and can burn you, so keep that well away and have somewhere safe to rest it upon. Nothing fabric, nothing inflammable. This can reach 600 degrees Celsius, so it's very hot. And this is actually the same hot air tool that I made the first video with, which was in 1991. So it's lasted me all that time, still my favourite actually. The hairdryer is much more accessible. This is a salon hairdryer. You could use any salon type hairdryer. The thing to look for is a powerful motor and one that gets hot enough to actually melt the wax. This creates a lot of blow and this one creates a lot of heat. So they're good for different things, and I'm going to show you how they both work. But remember, caution, only use these tools if you're totally confident, and make sure you use them safely. The hairdryer naturally has an open end here, and you switch it on, blows the air through. Sometimes you need to restrict the airflow, and I use a nozzle like this, which is actually from an electric paint stripper, and I just put that on the end there, and then you get a much harder airflow blowing through here. Now you'll see initially the hairdryer melts the wax, and then once it's molten it starts to move around, and as it moves around it's blown very hard. It's only just above the melting point, but it blows around a lot, and so you tend to get quite stormy, turbulent looking skies by using the hairdryer. You can see I keep moving the hairdryer around. It's important to do that, and even more important when you use the hot air gun. Keep the nozzle moving, otherwise you just blow a hole through the wax. In contrast, the hot air gun is a lot quieter. And it's a lot hotter. I don't know if you can see already, but the wax melts almost immediately. But it doesn't get blown so much, it sort of just flops. And so you get a much smoother sort of sky working with a hot air gun. So make sure you keep the nozzle of the hot air gun or the hairdryer moving all the time that you're using it. Otherwise you'll blow a hole through the wax down to the card, and if the wax smokes at any point in time, you're staying in that position too long, so move away. Finally, work in a well-ventilated area when you're using hot air gun tools. I'm blowing the wax along and across the card because I want the sky to feel calm and smooth. If I blow it vertically, it'll look unnatural. So by doing it like this, we get a nice natural looking sky effect. And when I'm happy, I simply stop and let it cool down. A couple of minutes, it'll be done. So after all that, what did I do? I put the hot air gun down on the paper and look, it scorched it. So beware. Put it down on a hard, non-flammable surface and work in good ventilation, and then everything will be safe. But not for kids. I'm going to do a quick underpaper change, and then we'll get on with putting in the mountains and the foreground. Having put the hot air gun away, I noticed that there's a little bit of hair in here. Do you see these specks and so on? And there's a good way to get rid of those if you've got a hot air gun. Just gently puff on the wax until it melts, and then touch the scribing tool onto it, and it'll lift it up. Wipe it on something, come back, touch any more that are there, and it'll just lift them out because it's cold, and so they stick to it. Normally I hold the iron like this, but what happens is that the cable can get on the card and drag it around and be really annoying. So what I often do is just wrap it around my arm once, and now it's out of the way. So I can work here quite freely with the cable around my arm, and it's out of the way. So I'm loading up the iron with some green, a bit of brown, and then I'm going to put in some pale blue, a bit of sky colour, and also some pink. Now I'm going to make some hills across here by using the tip of the iron, a bit like when I dabbled the trees on last time. See, it's quite liquid because it needs to flow. Nice soft colours, I hope it's not too dark, and off we go. Very gently, just touching the tip down onto the card, making the shapes I want. Let's go up here a bit. And we'll come back through that again. Across again, and just sort of smoothing it on down to create our initial hillscape. Now, still with the wire wrapped around my arm, it's time to begin the dabbing process to put in the detailing here. But obviously I can't easily hold the piece of paper, it's so large, it's very difficult to get your fingers into the back of the middle of the paper. So there's a little tip here. Normally I'd do it on the edge of the table, but because the camera's above me, I'm going to put it onto a box. So imagine that this box is the edge of your table, or you can put a box on the table like I have. This is about 9 inches high. And then you put on your piece of artwork, and I'm going to use a tape dispenser just to clamp it on there. So now I can take my hands away and the thing is just trapped in there. Now I can get my left hand underneath here and I can touch it wherever I need to. So I can dab down onto here quite easily. I've got to wrap it around my arm. Wrap it around your arm, it's much easier. And then if you take a piece of tissue, have it lying down on the table there, and just wipe onto the tissue and dab. Where you've got excess wax, you can just get rid of it. You can always put more back in, remember. And where you want more colour, just put it onto the iron and dab some more in. Now I'm going to put a river in here in a minute. So I'm trying to have pale colours in the distance and stronger colours in the foreground. I'll probably speed this bit up on the film, so I'll stop talking. So the background's done. Remember I took some off here, dabbing, lifting, wiping, and then put darker colour in, and I used the dark versions of the sky colours, the green, the brown, darker blue and the red violet, and mingled them in here to give us sort of a more of a contrast. And now I'm going to put a stream in here, and I'm going to make that work through here. I'm not quite sure where it's going yet, but for that I need to get a piece of tissue. So with a piece of tissue, fold it, and then end up with quite a strong pad like this, quite a hard part, because we're actually going to use friction to rub through here. Now I've got to try and figure out where the stream's going, and I think I'll start here and sort of wind it down round there, and I want to go out of the picture here I think, so I'll see where it goes anyway. Just start off. I think I'm going to go behind here actually. And as I'm rubbing it, you can see I'm taking some of the stuff off. I'm rubbing parallel to the top and the bottom of the card. See the dirt coming off on the tissue there? Don't take it all off though, these pieces are important. If you take it all off, it'll look like rubbish. It'll look like a rubbed piece of card. Can you see how it just sort of appears before your eyes as you rub away? And it's the friction of your rubbing that actually melts the wax and takes it off. If I just go over and clean that little bit up. See, I've taken the sort of smudged stuff off. Can you see how it's coming as a little stream there now? Rub a bit harder. I'm going to take it right off the page here. The harder you rub, then obviously the more wax comes off. You can see the whole table's moving because I'm rubbing really quite hard to try and get the stuff off. A little bit more of that. A little bit more down here. Just get that bit away. Okay, that'll do. So my tissue's a bit dirty now. I've taken that much wax off just by rubbing. Quite hard work. Remember to keep the pad tight, change it. And that's just rubbed back through to the card, but not all of it. It's important to leave these little pieces because those are the things that break it up to the eye. It's just an illusion anyway. Also, it's easier if you make a curve in it of some sort. You could curve it like an S shape, but don't do it straight down the page because then it just looks like it's falling off. So make it flow. Water is flat, we all know that. Now it's time to actually put some foxgloves in and then to colour the whole picture up so that it all sort of flows together. But I'm going to switch to doing a little picture just to show you a simple way of doing the foxgloves first. I'm just going to quickly do a background and speed this bit up so I won't talk to you while I do it. Okay, so I've got my little picture done. Now I'm going to use green, pink and the red violet. The red violet is difficult to see because it's such a dark colour. Just clean the iron up. Now I'm going to use the tip of the iron, and what I'm going to do is dip it into the waxes and make the bells for the foxgloves. But I want to show you a little tip about using the tip. Take a small piece of tissue, about that much, and just roll it up until it's in a very fine line like this, and then slip it in here. Let's do it this way up. In like that. And now it's stuck inside there. We can get it out later on, but what it does is it stops all those blobs that you might be familiar with when you're using the iron this way up from coming out onto your picture. So for the foxgloves, first I'm going to put in a line with the edge of the iron, like this, just as though you're doing a grass really, and another one. And now I'm going to take the tip of the iron, touch it on 2 colours of wax, and make a flick, point and up. I'll change the camera angle in a minute, you'll be able to see it better from the other way, but let me just do a few to show you how it works out. Can you see how they're building up the stem here? So let's tip in the wax on the card and up you go. Tip in the wax on the card and up you go. And this is quite hard, harder than it looks probably, but it's very satisfying to the other one. So we've taken the foxglove flowers and represented them with little triangles that hang down from the stem like little bells. Just finish off with the green and a few leaves. And because we're not trying to be too fussy, we can do leaves that aren't actually anything at all like foxglove leaves, because most people don't know anyway. And for those of you who do, I'm sorry. So it's time to take the plunge and put the foxglove shapes into our bigger picture. I've run out of wax there, so I'm just going to take some more to make my line up into the sky. This is the stalk number 1, stalk number 2, and I've crossed both of them across the horizon line because that makes them appear stronger. Let's do some more over here. And a few more as we flow down the picture. You can see how the whole shape is building up now. And now it's time to take the plunge. So, if I tilt the iron slightly more down the curve, I can get bigger lines. So the more closer to the point I touch with it, the smaller the lines, and the more of the edge I touch, the bigger the lines. Mixing these 2 colours, the number 12 red violet and the 24 pink, gives really quite a good sort of foxglove colour. And doing them as big as this one, obviously they get very wet. So I'm going to ease off on the amount of wax that I've got dripping off now. And I'm just filling in between the gaps that I've missed. Now I'm going to do the little ones, and I want to put the waxes here, but I don't want to risk damaging the picture, so just take a piece of card and put the waxes on top of the card, and then you can carry on as you were, without worrying about getting that wax all over the picture. These tiny little ones, I'm working pretty much just with the point now. So that's the main foxglove part done. Big ones, medium ones, smaller ones, that takes depth into the picture. The water, remember, some of it hidden, winding its way out. I'm going to colour the water a little bit, and the easy way to do that is just to take a block and just very, very lightly crayon on top of it. I should really have just crayoned the block off on here first and then started, but it won't matter. So just crayon a little bit of that colour in, I'll put a bit of blue in, have a little bit of brown as well, here and there. And maybe a little bit of the red violet as well. Just to sort of tone the whole picture in. And then just take your finger and gently smudge that colour in. Let's have a close up on that. If you get an area like this where you don't actually like the colour, you can always take the tissue and wipe it off again, because it'll take the colour out as well as putting colour in. A little bit more down here. Now I'm going to put in some foliage, and like I did on the little picture at the beginning, I work backwards and forwards, and if I want darker colour, simply run the iron through the block of wax to pick colour up on the edge before you apply it onto the picture. Don't be scared to overlap flowers when you've done them. It all adds to the illusion of depth, because remember, this is just a flat bit of card at the end of the day. And we're trying to trick people into seeing it as something different. Now another little trick, if you want to brighten an area up, like here, which is very dull really, is just to take the block of wax and crayon it on top. You can do that like this, and that just adds colour in and changes the nature of that part. Smudge it with your fingers if you want to. Polish it all together. Be very careful up in the sky area. Dust off any flakes of wax that are around, and it's probably best to take a clean piece of tissue Let's finish off with some flowers. I'm going to use my pink and light blue. Again, same as the initial picture that we did, just sort of quite clumsily almost dot some stuff on here. Irregular is much harder than regular. feeling pretty good about this now. I just need to put in my birds. So I've got green and brown. My iron anti-blob thing, the tip I gave you about putting the tissue down there, has worked perfectly. Let's do some big, some little ones. Do one more here. And we do a few little dragonflies down here as well. And so with the final polish, that was an A3 picture. What about foxgloves?